Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stuart Blumenthal. I'm the Intacct Practice Director here at ETHOSystems. Today, we're going to be going over the 2024, can't believe we're in 2024 already, R1 release that's going to be scheduled to be released tomorrow night. Please keep in mind that this will be released around 8 o'clock approximately Pacific time. So it's a Friday night. It's good date night, not time to worry about your accounting system getting updated. And by Saturday morning, everything should be with the new release. So what we're going to do is go over all the new features today. Couple of housekeeping notes. Presentation's about 30 minutes long. Really just depends upon all the Q&A also that we'll be getting in at the end of this. All the phone lines are muted. If you have any questions, please use the questions feature within the GoToWebinar. And last but not least, if you want a copy of this presentation, the PowerPoint, we're just going to be using PowerPoint today. I'm happy to send you the PowerPoint via PDF if you just put your email address in to the questions feature. So before we dive in, one quick important thing, we have had a lot of clients asking for training, and we do these monthly trainings, but we thought it would be really cool to have a full day of training. So we are doing this in Phoenix, Arizona on May 16th at Chase Field. So we're actually not even doing it at a hotel, but we're doing it at the ballpark. So we've got 2 tracks going. So there's a total of 8 classes. Someone could take only 4 classes, so it's really good if you send yourself and someone else, and then you can take all 8 classes. We're going to be doing over things like form designs, imports, ICRW reports, talking about project contracts and change orders, and then for those who attend the class the day before, we are offering a baseball game, free baseball game. We rented out the owner's box at Chase Field for the Reds versus Diamondbacks game. And that's the day before, right around 12:30. And so if you sign up for the training, you could also go to the game the day before. It's a great way to network with other end users in the industry that are using Sage Intacct construction. And the price is $199 early bird registration per person. If you send 3 or more, it's only $169. So we're not making money off this. Our goal is to really make this a networking and an educational event, all at a really cool venue down in downtown Phoenix. So agenda, just go through the features and then go through Q&A. So one thing that you'll see is that there's a lot of setup changes possible with this release. And I just want to make sure everyone's aware that, I'm looking at the list of everyone's on this call today, and, there's some setup changes. If you have questions on those setup changes, please contact your consultant or your support person. If you use our support feature within our Ethos, it's right on your dashboard. There's an ETHOSystems dashboard where you can submit a support ticket, and those will be available. And we can make any of those changes with you starting on Monday throughout the one, because that's when our support will be available. So just again, there are some configuration changes that can be made or available. Sage does not turn things on automatically for safety purposes. So again, please keep in mind that if you do have questions about that, please work with one of our team members. So one of the cool things is that as we have watched over the last year, they have rolled out compliance, and compliance is really, really important to the construction industry. And one of the things that they first rolled out was the ability to track insurance and lien waivers and stuff like that at the vendor level. Well, that's finally changed. They've added it now to the primary document. So that would be your purchase order or your subcontract or basically your commitment. So now you can track that at that level. So for those who have not turned on vendor compliance, we do have a video that we posted up on our YouTube channel about this. Also, we will be talking about vendor compliance at our end user training. We could always work with one of our consultants in getting that set up. But with vendor compliance now, you now have the ability to track in the lower left-hand corner as you're setting it up, if you're basing it upon the vendor or the primary document. If you have already set it up already, it will be set up based upon vendor. So you will need to set up another definition specifically for the primary document aspect, or again, your purchase order, your commitment, your subcontract, yada, yada. The other thing that you'll see is that when you're in your subcontract, you will see another tab now at the top. So it will be transaction history, and then you'll see your compliance tab at that point there. So I just want to make sure you see, hey, there's another tab now on that screen that's available. And again, you must have turned on compliance, and you have to have that activated. There are some security features as well within there. And last but not least, there is a primary document flag that should be set on all of your transactions that need to be flagged as well. So again, make sure that you work with the consultant and getting that set up if you have any questions. We've got some clients that set it up on their own, and it was pretty straightforward. The other thing that we have added, or they've added, is the ability to do negative amounts of lien waiver. So that was something that has been requested by several people. So if you choose the compliance category of lien waiver, there's now a box that says allow negative lien waivers on that. So again, there's some times that people need that feature in the construction world, and they have added that feature, that checkbox as well on the screen. So as you've seen with the last release, they have added in the order entry area, they've added some another project billing or project contract aspect in the order entry screen. And you guys should have all noticed that. What they're doing is that they're moving slowly, taking some of the fields that were there originally and moving them over to the other screen. And what they want to do is kind of clean up the screens a little bit. So with this release, Intacct is going to hide a few of these fields that a lot of people have not needed, the original project contract and billing amounts fields. And so if you want them back on, you just need to turn on in the setup of, in the transaction definition, display original project contract billing amount fields. So again, they're trying to clean up the screen a little bit. If you want it back to the way it was, just check that box on Monday or over the weekend, and you'll see all the fields that were there based upon the original project contract billing amounts. So want to make sure you're aware of that. You're not losing your mind. Everything is still there. One of the things that we have seen time after time is that people want a retainage release invoice template. So before we had, our AIA billing template, we've had our time and materials template, but now we can also set up our retainage release invoice template as well. So under accounts receivable, as you're configuring, if you have an AR retainage enabled, you now have the ability to set up a template underneath there. That is using, and you can customize that. That's all using the Microsoft Word add-in that Sage Intacct uses for form documentation. We will have some templates available probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we don't have, I don't have a template today, but if there are some that, if you need help designing it, or again, if you want the template, once we get the templates, we'll be happy. Just send us an email, happy to send those off to you, and then you can modify that, or we can modify it for you. If you have not been in your AR screen in a while, you might not have anything in the retainage release clearing account. So if you try to save this, put this in here, it might say this field is required. Usually what we've been doing is our setup options is setting this to be the same because this is basically an immediate flush anyway, but you might need to have you might get a message saying your release clearing account has not been set up. Just please make sure that be prepared that if that field is a blank, you're going to have to put a value in there. And I just want you to be prepared so you're not shocked by any type of error message you might get if you're trying to update the setup options. One of the other things that they rolled out, and I'm very happy about this, is that we can now do opposite amounts or reverse conversions. Sorry, I was trying to remember the word there. Reverse conversions for change within the order entry document. So you can see the example that they give here on the screen. This was available in purchasing, and was really successful. And so they've added this to order entry at this point here. So what we can do is do reverse conversion. So if you accidentally converted something, you can now reverse that conversion at that point. There's two things you need to, or there's two aspects to this. The first screen is again under configuring order entry. So if you go into the order entry module, hit configuration, under construction here, there's two things. It says include fully converted lines on a new document during conversion, and then enable conversion reversal for non-inventory items. So again, this applies to non-inventory items. I would say 85 to 90% of our clients are using non-inventory items, so that should be fine. And then when you're in order entry, there is a box now that says reverse conversion. If you don't see that, make sure you click on the show details of that line, and you might need to move that up into your grid area so you can see it easy. Otherwise, again, it's going to be on the line. You click on show details and it'll be one of those fields there. And again, you can easily modify that grid on order entry to show that mark that it's a reverse conversion at that point. And the last thing, and I should have like fireworks on this slide and all these different things, but they are agent reports now should reflect the retainage balance as of the date, as of the date when you run it. So this has been I will say a sore subject for us as consultants. So you would have to run, in the past, you would run your aging report, and then you would run your ICRW report for your aging or your retainage balance as of a specific date. This has now been fixed so that it now shows that correctly. This was because this came out because of everyone yelling and reminding them that they needed to do this. So we're very excited about this change. Again, no fireworks, but we're very excited about that. I'm going to take a 2-second break here because I've been speaking very fast. Any questions on the construction changes? So they have been making a lot. In the future release, the goals are they're adding a lot of additional features, such as additional features for joint checks in the upcoming releases. So construction is going to be, you're going to see more and more features with every release on the construction aspect, but those are the ones for this grouping here, but there's a lot of other changes. Don't see any questions, so I'm going to keep them going. So one of the other things that they're adding is that the real estate module now will have its own menu, as you can see here. Now, several of you are on this call here, I know have the real estate module. That does not roll out on this weekend. This change will be, it's going to be delayed by a couple of weeks, but I just want you to be aware that they've already, this is what it's going to look like. So for example, when you go to real estate now, it's not going to launch that additional tab. It's going to be done directly through the menus at this point here. So I know that the real estate team is very excited about that, and we're very excited about that as well. So again, it might not, that one's not going to be, the foundation is being rolled out tomorrow night, but the actual final changes also require the real estate module to be updated, and that's going to be updated in the next couple of weeks. So this next part here is one of these features that I have been asking for a long time, and they've added this to both accounts payable and to receivables, so you'll kind of see the slide twice. But when you're entering an AP and bill into the system right now, when you look at the contacts, it shows all the contacts. It just doesn't show the contacts for that vendor. And so you could choose basically any vendor. And the same thing in accounts receivable. If you look at the ship tos, for example, under AR directly, you can see all of the contacts in the system. So this is something that I've been dying for. They had this in order entry, but not in AP and AR. And so what they now have is a setup option. So by default, it's still going to show all contacts on after the update tomorrow night. It's going to leave it the way it is right now, which is saying show all contacts. Moving forward, you can say restrict to vendor contacts, or the one that I like personally is restrict to contacts related to the selected vendor. Great that you could change that, and when you start doing AP invoices and AR invoices directly in AP and AR, they will then show up with the restricted information, with just those contacts related to that vendor and or to that customer for that setup option. However, please read the last sentence here, or the last paragraph. After you change the configuration, the restrictions enforced for creating new and editing existing transactions. So what that means basically is that if you go into an old transaction and that contact is not related to that vendor or customer based upon the module you're in, you're going to get an error, an updating saying, hey, it's not related. So just be careful that if you're going back and editing stuff, that will possibly cause an issue. So that could possibly cause an issue. So just FYI from that perspective there. The other thing that they have added was email notifications. And trust me, we all get too many emails a day. It just is what it is. But when a bill was submitted, Sage sent the approval email to the person who drafted it, but the submitter was never notified. So they've added a new feature now. And so like under preferences, you turn on configuration, you already have email notification turned on, but then under the preferences for the individual user, you could say, hey, what do you want to get request for approval? And you could say that purchasing vendor or the bill, and you could be notified if it was approved or declined at that point. So again, some people like having the email notification. Personally, I'm a dashboard person, but that will be available starting on this release tomorrow night. And then the last thing is that, and this affects a couple of our users, but I just wanted everyone to be aware of it. So if you're a user that's restricting a location, AKA an entity or a department, you can no longer reverse a bill that has lines across those locations and departments that you're restricted from. So for example, if you try to, they found that if you could reverse or you reverse a bill, but if you did not have access to that department, you still had the ability to reverse it. And even though one of the lines was maybe for a different entity, for cross-entity information, for cross-entity bills. And this, by the way, is also in accounts receivable. So just keep in mind that if you get an error message saying you can't reverse it anymore, it might be because you have restrictions set up on the entity and or department. Perfect. That was it with accounts payable. I'm going to check questions real quick. One of the questions that came in, by the way, was the training in Phoenix, can you attend it remotely? Sorry, I can't because of the way the classes are set up. It's in person only, so I do apologize. I know it's not across, I know that people sometimes have to travel far away, travel across the United States, but we're trying to do it all in person because of just the way the classes are. And some of it is actually hands-on classes. We're gonna have you bring your computer and do some reporting. So the answer is no, sorry. So accounts receivable, jumping into that module. When entering an AR transaction, again, same premise that you would see all contacts. So same thing, starting Monday, you can say, hey, restrict the contacts related to the selected customer. But again, if you're changing an older transaction, be aware it might cause an issue. Same thing for accounts receivable, same thing if you try to reverse a invoice that has the line item, you have restrictions, you will get an error message on that. And I think that's it for AR. One of the questions is, can you go in over the AP and AR aging update again? Yeah, so real quick, I know I'm sliding backwards here. So in AP and AR, the standard aging reports now reflect the retainage balance as of the date the date that you put in the system. So for example, if I was to run an aging report as of a month ago, all the columns, the 30, 60, 90, 120 columns are correct. However, the retainage balance will reflect as of the current date. So what we've had to do is create an ICRW report for our clients to get the aging as their retainage balance. We keep that keyword there, retainage balance as of a specific date. Starting tomorrow, once this update's released, you will now be able to, when you run your report, the retainage balance will now calculate as of the date you run the aging report as of. Hopefully I answered your question. Perfect. Thank you for confirming that through the chat. I appreciate that. Okay, let me scroll forward. Sorry, I hate doing that. I know it gets people dizzy sometimes, but it is what it is. Next area. So it's been interesting. People like to hack into systems, we have found out. And so what I mean by that is that Sage is, over the course of the years, have seen people like, for example, someone leave their computer open, and then they would go and someone can, if they had, they would log in and change the person's email address and try to get into and then reset the password. And they've seen people try to do this in organizations. This is why it's important to lock your machine. But what Sage is doing is that they've added a new feature under here where you have your primary. So when you set up a new user, it changes a little bit now. You now have a contact name under there, which makes it a lot easier, guys, so that when we're setting up employees as well, you can link those correctly together. But in addition to that, we also have an email address account here. Only the user and the designated user and the full admin could change that. So this is being used for A, security purposes, but B, it's supposed to make it easier so that if for some reason your email address is getting blocked by when you're trying to reset the password and your spam filter is rejecting it, you could send it to only you can update it to go to a Gmail address or the system administrator, so you can go to a different email address if needed to unlock your account. So it's really to help you with the unlocking process. I just want to make sure that when you're setting up a new user, you will see a contact information here, as well as the valid email address. When it updates tomorrow evening, those two will match. So we don't have to worry. There's nothing you need to do there. But moving forward, if you have a secondary email address as a backup, that is also now available. It makes it a lot safer and better. And trust me, I'm not going to fight people in security, but I know they know what they're doing. For those who are using banking cloud, and there are a few of you out there, we just did a webinar the end of last year on Sage Banking, bank feeds, great module. So if you want to get set up on the banking feeds, please work with us, and also watch our YouTube video on that. It's a half an hour of some tips and tricks. We do recommend that you set up the banking 30 days after you go live on the banking integration. So it's something that we don't do in part of the normal implementation. But anyway, on this here, one of the things they added was the banking cloud time zone. Sounds crazy, but as we start getting more global banks in other time zones, that can affect cutoffs of certain transactions. So they've added the banking cloud time zone. If you say that 3 times fast, it'll be impressive. But that will allow you to make sure that it brings over the transactions with the correct date and time associated to them. So that was an important aspect they needed to add to that feature. Again, if you have any questions on setting up banking feeds, let us know. You are licensed with Sage Intacct to up to 199 different bank feeds you can set up as part of your subscription. So if you're not doing it today, it's something that, hey, if you want to set a goal or a rock for 2024, definitely do it. Okay, this one is a game changer for me because I'm going to say it's going to save about a half a dozen phone calls on support. So moving forward, and I'm going to say the key word, moving forward, the system will remember your previous versions of your financial reports. Let's be honest. We all go into the financial report, we make a change, we mess it up, and then you call us and say, hey, how do I get back to that previous version? We've all done it. And so now what's going to happen is that you can now see previous versions. So you can see the view version history. I know this is blurry, that picture's blurry, I apologize. It's the only one I can get. But when you see that view version history, what's gonna end up happening is you can see the version history, and then you can click on more actions and restore a previous version. You can work up with the last 100 versions of this report. So you go in, didn't like it, you can go back a version. You can go up to 100 versions back. However, again, it only works moving forward from this release. So if you've made changes in the last 2 months, 3 months, or since the beginning of time, it will not have record of those. But moving forward, as you start working on your financial reports, you can now go back to a previous version. So we're excited about that. It makes our life a lot easier, should make your life a lot easier. So if you make a mistake, we're all human, and this is the best way of solving it. One of the other things they've added here was under reporting is the ability. So one of the things that's really frustrating, and I know we've had a couple clients on this that are on this call have this problem where they change a report and all of a sudden someone gets 100 emails because it's trying to run based upon a start date, and it goes all the way back and sends 100 emails, and everyone gets all grouchy that their email box is flooded with scheduled reports. So what they've added was the ability, or added the check now says, hey, we're not going to send more than 31 reports. So if it's going to send more than 31 reports for any one reason, it's going to air out and say, hey, you need to fix the start date on here. So I know, again, this has been a thing that we've been wanting for a while. It should make our life a lot easier. So just keep in mind, this will help when you're scheduling out reports. Scheduling reports in Intacct, it's still sometimes, it is a little bit of a rocket science sometimes. I hate saying it like that. And again, you can't set the date, but it just kind of runs in the that morning. So again, it's good, but it does have setting it up is sometimes a little bit of a challenge. This hopefully will reduce the number of errors and people yelling at us that they just got their 100 emails throughout the system. And then last but not least, for those who have the inventory module, they've added some cool features. So one is a transaction graph flow graph that shows you how all the transactions are going to flow in the system to make sure that you've got all your transaction definitions right. It's really helpful. They've created a GL subledger reconciliation and a landed cost. And this is a new feature called inventory utilities. So what you're going to have to do is that for those who have inventory, you're going to have to go in on Monday, turn on the permissions to go to the inventory utilities option in security. Make sure you have that turned on. By the way, this is a great time to review the security in the system because Sage is constantly adding new boxes like, hey, do you want to have access to this? Can they have access to this? Again, they don't turn them on by default. So if you want to, but you'll go into inventory, turn on inventory utilities. And for those who have inventory, they've added these 3 new utilities. I'm not going to go into those in detail today just because we don't have a lot of people running with inventory. Because most of our clients are construction and they do more of GC work and stuff like that, or labor work. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that aspect there. Wow, so I said 30 minutes and I 29 minutes into it. So I'm gonna leave this open for a Q&A at this point here. Any questions you guys have, happy to answer for you here. Hopefully you can see there's a lot of good updates. If you have any problems on Monday, just reach out to us. We're here to help you guys out. I've been through a lot of these. I have not had any issues on major issues on updates, so everything should work. And again, a lot of new features. If it was me, I would really focus on setting up vendor compliance this year. Bank feeds are probably another really good thing. If there are classes that you guys want us to teach in the upcoming year, please always feel free to let us know as well. We're here to help you guys out. With that, I'm gonna say thank you, and I had got a few people that want the copy of the PowerPoint. I'll make sure that you guys get that. Perfect. I think with that then, I'm gonna call this a session. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll go forward we'll take it from there. Have a great day.